And while the media zeroes in on the Michigan shooting case, they've conveniently memory-holed the horrific murder of 6 in Waukesha, Wisconsin. One of the reasons for this shameful coverage blackout is obvious. One case involved a gun, the other didn't. Joining me now, Molly Hemingway, Fox News contributor, senior editor at The Federalist, and Dinesh D'Souza, host of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. Molly, for the media, this is all about, it seems, at least this prosecutor, she's doing the media rounds, which always makes me suspicious. It's kind of the anti-gun narrative, even if it means, ignoring another truly horrific killing spree.
Well, every time that you have a horrible incident like this, it's fascinating to watch how the media handles it. Some incidences of local crime become national news stories, a way to talk about large issues that are facing the country and communities across different states. That is what Waukesha is. That is something where we're dealing with local prosecutors having bad policies that enable violent criminals to return to the streets to commit crimes again. This is a natural thing that should be covered in a widespread fashion, and yet it's just being memory-holed because it doesn't fit the narratives that the media would like to push. They like to have some of these reforms that have been put in place. They don't want to talk about what the repercussions of these reforms are, even though people as far away as Los Angeles, and people on the East Coast are dealing with rampant criminality as a result of too much being done on some of these criminal justice reforms that are taking place. And then you have, of course, the gun issue, which just makes the media decide to go crazy every time it happens, sadly.
Yeah, what you don't cover is just as important as what you cover. And Dinesh, the Daily Beast has gone out of its way to tie the Michigan shooter to Trump. In one article, the Beast claimed that Jennifer, Ethan Crumley's mother, penned an open letter to President-elect Donald Trump, which she posted on her blog in November 2016. She was in favor of Trump's long-promised border wall. But a few days before, they called out right-wing trolls for daring to point out that Darrell Brooks supported BLM, other anti-white stuff that he was doing. But Dinesh, why the selective coverage, the two cases?
Well, I think the way to understand it is to make a distinction between stories, which are the specifics of any particular incident, and meta stories. The meta story is the controlling ideological narrative that from the mainstream media's point of view determines whether the story deserves acres of coverage or whether it should be quickly passed over. So two of the controlling meta stories are, number one, a white perpetrator, i.e. white supremacist, and the second one is the gun. So in the Rittenhouse case, you had both. You had the white guy who was dubbed a white supremacist, and you had the AR-15, and no wonder the media went berserk. You had tons of coverage even before the trial began. Now in the Waukesha case, that's inconvenient on every front. Black perpetrator, anti-white, pro-BLM, let out on $1,000 bail, and his deadly weapon wasn't a gun at all, it was a car. So this essentially means that the story contradicted the meta story, and the media was quickly eager to dispense with it. Now with the school shooter, once again, they're trying to rev up that same narrative. It's a white kid. Now, he's not a white supremacist, but he's a troubled kid, and he is white, and so the focus now is on the gun. And of course, any association that can be made with Trump, which kind of revives the embers of the white supremacy narrative.
Oh,
so what you see here is that these meta stories control the way in which the media covers everything, and a story isn't really a big story if it doesn't fit the meta story.
And Molly, we have to go back to what we were just talking about in a previous segment. Just really briefly, the Kamala Harris problem, which I think is getting bigger by the day for the Biden administration. They're clearly freaking out about the likelihood that they're going to have to figure something else on the vice presidential front if something, heaven forbid, should happen to Biden.
They have a very bad situation. Joe Biden's ratings are very bad because the media presented him as a competent, moderate individual. He's governing with incompetence. The policies that he pushes are very far left and not appealing to the American voter. And then their backup plan of having Kamala Harris rise to take over is not going well because somehow she has even lower ratings than Biden does. But this is all because people were fed a bunch of lies because people wanted to do whatever it took to oust the previous president, and now we're dealing with the reality that people were sold a bill of goods.
Yeah, they're stuck now, or we're stuck. Molly and Dinesh, great to see you. Thanks.